Hello and welcome to the first ever inaugural Mac Football Forever award show. I'm Caleb Carter. I'm not your host. Normally, Alex is your host. For the sake of this episode, we're both your hosts. We're here to talk about some exciting crap that happened in MACtion this year. So, Alex, I kind of was like, we can do this and just kind of highlight some of the bizarre stuff that we kind of highlight in what we do about how stupid this conference is, how great it is simultaneously, the goofy stuff, the things that are saying these were MACtion moments, the highs, the lows, everything that happened in a 6-game regular season and culminated in an unconventional MAC championship winner in Ball State. There's just a lot to talk about. But with all of that said, we've got some superlatives, some goofy ones, some fun ones, some traditional awards, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, things that you'd want to know, and then maybe in the afterwards you can argue about if you want to. And we'll engage with you. Do if you want to take your shots at us, I say go for it. We'll welcome the engagement. So that being said, Alex, what you stoked about with this show?
Well, I mean, first off, for the record, I mean, we're both co-hosts of this. I don't want to,
True.
I'm not doing this without you, and I don't want to think that you're going to do this without me, buddy. But I mean, you're right. It's a fun league. It's a stupid league, and it's the league that we've been paying most attention to ever since we went to college, respectively. So, we we followed the beat. We respectively left the beat for a little bit, and then we both came back. And so we are, when you brought this to my attention about a month and a half ago, you kind of, were thinking like, hey, award show would be fun. I thought that was an awesome idea. And so I'm so glad that we, put this together. We tweeted out, some polls of, hey, people, if you were in charge of doing this, what would you think? Not that you guys were the end all be all. Sorry, fan voters. But, it was a lot of fun to engage and to see what other people had thought, what they thought was the top MAC moment of the year, however they defined their MACtion, what was the best player of what category we gave them and so forth. We'll go over the results of that later. But for us putting this together in private over the past few weeks, it's been fun. It's been a little bit exhausting. But, like I said, like I'm just really excited to get this going. But like when you did think of this, what kind of was part of your like inspiration? Like what led you to think that this was like a fun or necessary thing for us to do together?
So there's already, like, we talk about the niche of MAC football and how goofy it is and how different it is from everything else. It's got its own brand about it. And inevitably, the best players, the best teams get the recognition. Other teams fall by the wayside, and maybe there's not as much love that they would get from media. So for me, it was kind of like thinking, how can we highlight some of the crazier things, the more fun things that otherwise wouldn't get people that wouldn't get their shine, programs that wouldn't get their shine otherwise. And it just seems like a fun way to recognize some players who wouldn't otherwise receive that attention. And for us, it's kind of fun to use this as an avenue to go back and explore just the fun crap that happened this year that maybe we can catalog for future reference, and people are going to be able to go back to this and go, oh God, that was the weird stuff got real weird. And we've got it all here in a 30-minute video or so. So I'm not holding us to that. It might go over. So for now, that's just kind of where I was at mentally. I'm pretty stoked about this.
Is this where the opening monologue usually happens for award shows? I don't know how other people do it, but I kind of have an opening monologue. Can I do some Ricky Gervais stuff?
Oh God. I mean, yeah, I guess.
Okay. What do you call a Buffalo team that loses 2 times in the MAC title game in 3 years? I'm just kidding. That's not a real joke. That's not a Ricky Gervais.
Man, that wasn't even creative at all.
No, wasn't good. But in all seriousness, though, I do want to talk about the year that we did have, and not just in terms of football, because so much of our football world happened off the field, as it always does, but none more prevalent than in 2020 when in March we were all told to stop watching conference basketball games, stop watching the tournament for NCAA. We all had to go home and be scared of what? The coronavirus. We can't talk about 2020 in any way without talking about the coronavirus. We can't talk about the years after this without talking about the coronavirus. And, not because people get sick from it, but because 300,000 people in this country have died and still continue to die because of this. When we watched the college football, when we watched the MACtion, it was always somewhat conflicting. And a lot of times, as the seasons went on, as more athletes started seeing the field, as we got used to seeing the same players out there week in and week out, we kind of got a little bit numb to it. Even later, as like the second spike started happening, we got a little bit numb, myself included. Even for as much caution as we all wanted to live with, there was no, it was just easy to get like a little bit distracted by the funness. We've talked about it on this show before, where you know sports is a distraction. You and I didn't always see it that way so much. We recognized it, but we didn't feel it so much before. This year we really did. And it wasn't just for us at home. It was for everybody that was able to actually make it to the games. It was for them that were still, distracted. The ones that were still being tested 4 times a week, but they still had a little bit of a distraction. They still had some fun while they could. And it's more than just the coronavirus too. Think about the summer that we had too. What else happened in the summer? People hit the streets. People hit the streets because a lot of reasons. One, they wanted the haircuts, but two, they hated the fact that black people kept dying needlessly. And those are things that happen year in and year out, anyways. But we also saw athletes hit the streets. We saw athletes hit the street over, the George Floyd death, Breonna Taylor, so on and so forth. They wanted to play. They had all these things going on. They felt like they were always just being athletes first and athletes second. We saw people hit the streets and say, we're people first, and then student athletes somewhere second or third down the line. It doesn't matter. Also with the coronavirus, we saw, games get reduced because of it, and some of it for health concerns, but we're going to see like an economic downturn too. We saw teams go from, a 12-game schedule to a 6-game schedule, defending MAC champions, 3 games. It was just, it's all tough, how we saw people get pissed over that, over social justice reform that they may or may not be getting. There's a lot of cries for progress, for health, for social justice, so on and so forth. And it all came down to coaches to be the guys to overwhelmingly listen to the 1,200 football players in this conference, thereabouts. And we kind of looked to them over the summer for, maybe not to be like the fans, the people that the fans had to listen to. They aren't always the beacons of light. And that in itself was sort of a problem, where we kind of let football coaches who are overwhelmingly white to, be the face of, we're the protectors of these guys. We're the protectors of these guys. But year in and year out, we didn't really see them stay committed to progress of the life that they had outside of football. And that's the kind of change that we saw players take up with coaches all over the country. And the MAC is not, excluded to that. No matter if it's just like a small niche league, players still demanded from their coaches. And a lot of coaches stepped up and did well. A lot of them really, really did. And I'm excited to see that happened in the first place. And I'm excited to see, what kind of commitment to progress that they continue going forward. The one question that people did ask all year, especially at the end of the year, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I had a lot of fun watching it. And if there's one thing that you and I have both said all year long, it's that we need to be appreciative of what we have right now. And that is the ultimate lesson of 2020.
Amen, dude. I can't say it much better than that. How about we get into some fan vote stuff?
Yeah. Quickly read off that the thread of what people had, and we will get into everything.
So you'll see this, and we had some awards, some pretty just kind of superlative type stuff. Newcomer of the year, and so that was a matter of Tion Dollard, Anthony Ekpe, Ladarius Jefferson, Jordan Gandy. Jordan Gandy won the fan vote. So that was the NIU cornerback who stepped in from South Dakota State and, started right away, made a big impact, had a 5-pass breakup game. Best dressed was another one. We had Ball State's Cardinal uniform, or the Charlie the Cardinal decal, the throwbacks, NIU football's super cool red uniforms, Ohio football's throwbacks, 1960 throwbacks from championship winning season, and then just another option for unity and Black Lives Matter social justice patches that a lot of teams used. And for the poll, Ohio won overwhelmingly. So the Bobcat fans showed out for that one. Alum of the year, there's a lot of really good choices. I think there are really good choices that didn't even get included on this. But
that's something we're going to say for everything tonight,
oh, I know.
By the way.
But it's like even in hindsight, there's like a bunch of.
But anyways, the alum of the year for the fan vote. What do the people want?
A tie between Corey Davis and Deontay Johnson. 30% of the vote beating out Robert Spillane and AJ Ouellette Davison. Johnson especially was just huge, has been huge for Pittsburgh this year. So props to those guys. Game of the year, which we'll have a bigger discussion of too. There was 4 very good options. Western was in a lot of them. Western's 41-38 victory over Toledo in the last seconds that drew all kinds of attention from the national media at the end of the day. Well, at least from our perspective, it did more attention than usual. That was our winner. It beat out Eastern Michigan, defeating Western, Ball State edging out Western, and then the MAC championship game between the Ball State victory over Buffalo. So those are the ones we put on Twitter for the fan vote. We thank you guys. We got a couple dozen votes in a lot of those. We got as many as over 70 votes in one of the polls. So again, thank you so much for being involved in that. We're going to continue to try and do things that allow you to voice your opinion on MAC sports, talk about MAC sports, converse about it, MAC football, and look out for those things. Again, we've teased it a lot recently, but this offseason is going to be big for us trying to develop more ways to engage about MAC football.
All right, so we got the fan vote out of the way, but now let's look at what we're actually going to do. We're going to do this in 3 parts. We have some traditional awards that we have 4 finalists for each. We have just quick superlatives that we want to throw in the middle. And then we have more of the fun stuff at the end, which is kind of the same format as traditional, but obviously you'll see. So traditional awards, we're going to start with players of the year on all 3 phases of the ball: offensive, defensive, and special teams. Offensive player of the year, our 4 finalists are as follows: Caleb Ellaby, quarterback for Western Michigan; D. Eskridge, wide receiver, Western Michigan; Justin Hall, wide receiver, Ball State; and running back Jarrett Patterson of Buffalo. And Caleb, would you like to present the winner?
The winner is who else? Jarrett Patterson. I
have it on a card, but Zoom doesn't. Zoom wants you to see the Source Awards instead.
You can see it. It popped there. Jarrett Patterson. So there's your winner. Having a guy who goes over 1,000 yards 4 games into the season, essentially, and ripping off all those touchdowns. Yeah. I think pretty easy choice, no matter how good of a season those other guys had. There was a time where we were saying, oh, maybe it could be Caleb Huntley. Oh, maybe it's D. Eskridge. Maybe it's Ellaby. It's Patterson.
Ran away with it.
Yep.
No pun intended.
Defensive
player of the year. This is the one where like the actual defensive player of the year proper was split into 2 people, but we're not going to do that. We're daring men. We do just one person. One person. We don't endorse 2 people. 1.
We're not the New York Times.
We're not Time Magazine. Or no, was it AP or was that Time Magazine?
It was the New York Times.
I know the New York Times endorsed 2 people, but didn't Time, or it wasn't like Time Person of the Year, both Kamala and Joe Biden?
Oh, yeah, it was. Freaking cowards.
Yeah! All right. Defensive Player of the Year, our 4 finalists are as follows: Bubba Arslanian, linebacker, Akron; Troy Hairston, another linebacker, Central Michigan; Malcolm Kuntz, D-end, Buffalo; and Brandon Martin, linebacker for Ball State. Caleb,
and
who was our winner?
This one's a little harder. It's Troy Hairston from Central Michigan for just living in the backfield and creating havoc for the Chippewas this year. Kuntz probably has the pro potential. For a while there, we thought he might be the guy. Brandon Martin was leading tackler just like Bubba Arslanian was. But Troy Hairston, my God, did he wreak havoc. And not having him and Diallo next year.
The defense's quarterback.
Yeah. Not having him and Diallo as a combo next year will definitely be something. But gosh, if Hairston wasn't a fun guy to watch this year.
3 phases of the game, though, Caleb. We did offense, we did defense. Our special teams player of the year finalists are as follows: D. Eskridge, who returned kicks for Western. Marshall Meter, a freshman kicker for Central Michigan. Trayvon Rudolph, another freshman, return man for NIU. And Demontre Tuggle, a return guy for Ohio. Lots of good guys, but who did special teams units fear the most?
And it's just that. Who did they fear? D. Eskridge. Any time he touched the ball, it was fear. It was, oh God, heart stop. What's going to happen? Game-changing play that saved Western's chances at possibly making the MAC championship. Some big returns otherwise, changing the course of the game in a number of games. So, D. Eskridge is our special teams player of the year.
Newcomer of the Year is an award that I really think should already be a traditional award in the modern age of just giving out awards to people. Transfers are so incredibly prevalent, let alone instant impact freshmen. And that is what I believe Newcomer of the Year award should go to. The 4 instant impact transfers to really make a name for themselves, and we listed as finalists, are Tion Dollard, Anthony Ekpe, Jordan Gandy, and Ladarius Jefferson. But they all did good. Who do we want to honor as the first ever Newcomer of the Year?
Well, for us, in the awards category, a year ago, we might not have thought this team was going to get an honor for offense.
Let alone in this position. Seriously.
And the reason that it's a choice that we're choosing Dollard over Jefferson, two transfers, is that Jefferson went into an offense that undoubtedly he was a huge part of and made an impact. But Tion Dollard changed the entire makeup of the Akron's offense alongside what they were able to do scheme-wise with that offensive line. They didn't rush for, I think they rushed for 215 yards as a team last year.
Yeah, they were under 2 per carry last year, and he was a first-team All-MAC running back.
Yeah.
666 yards. So, I mean, if I didn't pick him, then, the devil would be after me.
Satan! But, yeah, no, he completely changed the ability of Akron to threaten on offense. So, he's our Newcomer of the Year.
Freshman of the Year, that is one that we already know about. This is one that's not new to us. Our 4 finalists for MAC Freshman of the Year: Devin Lafayette, defensive back for NIU; Lou Nichols, running back at Central; Kempton Shine, defensive back at Eastern Michigan; and Harrison Whaley, running back, Northern Illinois. Caleb, lots of great young men under the age of 20. These 4 would make our 20 under 20, absolutely. But which one stood out the most?
A lot of the really guys who are going to carry the load in this conference for years to come. A lot of good MAC freshman running backs this year, but Lou Nichols was the one who shined above everyone else. Again, he ran for about 6.5 yards a carry. He wasn't even the feature back at the beginning of the year, but by the end of the year, he was taking the load of the carries off of Kobe Lewis. That was quite the tandem for Central. Very excited to see what Nichols is able to do in the future. But obviously, guys like Lafayette, who is an All-MAC player, Kempton Shine doing big things for EMU, and Whaley producing for an offense that was just trying to find its identity. A lot of really super talented freshmen.
Yeah, Lou Nichols was so good. I thought he was a sophomore.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat.
Head coach of the year is one that, I don't think is always given out to the right guy, but, it's always hard to define who does the best job at this. There's so many moving parts around them. And how do you properly define how one guy does his job better than everyone else, especially if it's so weighted on wins and losses and championships, this, that, and the other. And sometimes it just seems like hoo-ha. Yeah. But in a year like this, man, it's just so hard to just not to narrow it down to the championship performances, But there's still so many more guys that did well. But our 4 finalists: Lance Leipold, Buffalo; Tim Lester, Western Michigan; Chuck Martin, Miami; and Mike New of Ball State. Is there really any mystery of who we think the MAC Coach of the Year is?
I mean, Leipold had an undefeated team for much of the season. Lester did for a while. Chuck Martin did some stuff off the field that caught our attention, but Mike New is taking a team that hasn't won a championship in 25 years, a program that's been on bad times for a while. He deserved it. The program's reborn under him. Now if they keep winning like this, they're going to struggle to even keep him. It's not a place that Ball State fans or MAC fans in general thought Ball State would be even a year ago.
Yeah, and I've said it before, like we've seen perfect storms should happen with teams before, but it's so hard for those teams to like actually go out and do it and get guys motivated each and every week to perform each and every week. And also he helped keep his team incredibly healthy, and not to get too political, but in a state that kind of sucks at keeping people healthy to begin with. So yeah, I mean Mike New, obvious choice for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Caleb, we have a few superlatives. We're just going to throw them in. We had a lot of candidates go through these. We didn't want to keep doing the four person segment, or a 4-person layout rather. We're just going to quickly announce the award of what they're going to win and who wins the thing. Caleb, what is this quick superlative that you have to start with?
So we're going to start with just a goofy one. Jamal Hines of Toledo is the winner of Best Big Man Tutty. It was just he snagged a attempted shovel pass from Preston Hutchinson. It was one of those moments where you're like, what are you doing? But Hines snags it, runs in the end zone with it, goes to the back of the end zone, mean mugs for the camera, and puts on the turnover chain, which for me sold it. I was like, I'm not going to forget this moment from this year. So we added on another one too, that the MAC is often a story of players who went on to leave their mark, who they were slept on, they were under recruited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big part of the MAC's charm, big part.
And no one hypes that up more than NIU has over the years. And so for this year, our walk-on, and there were a lot of good choices, but this year it's got to go to Trayvon Rudolph. He's a guy from the Chicago area, Crete Money High School. He's one of those guys that it's just like, how did he not get a scholarship? Like, they obviously knew what they were doing, picking up some walk-ons that could make an immediate impact. And for the number of freshmen that NIU had and played this year, for him to make that type of impact right away, both in special teams and in the passing game, you've just got to be like salivating as an NIU fan about what he can do in the future. For a while there, he led the conference in return yards because mostly he was, returning more than anybody else. But this comes for a guy who completely changed the way NIU was able to play special teams. Last year, they just didn't return kicks. Trayvon Rudolph changed the dynamics of that special teams unit, and then obviously was one of their top receivers. So he's our walk-on player of the year.
The award for my newest favorite player of the year, that goes to Johannes Tyler. I mean, if you've seen a tweet about Johannes Tyler on the account, it's probably from me, because I really like Johannes Tyler. He's definitely someone that I followed, ever since he, signed with Ball State, because at the time I was really up with, the recruiting beat and all that. But he was a good Georgia get. I thought he was a talented receiver. But, and that was a time when Ball State really started getting after, the handsy guys out of Georgia, on both sides of the ball. Johannes Tyler has, and I've heard it on someone's broadcast before, but he went from an unrecognizable name on the depth chart, essentially, to what I think is one of, if not the best receiving prospect in the league, regardless of class. And he's still one of the younger ones. If you're going to run it back and keep watching replays of 2020 Ball State, you're going to see a lot of good plays out of Johannes Tyler. And you're going to be like, oh, yeah, he's one of my favorites, too.
As far as players with pro potential go, like, I know we're going to be talking about it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of what we're going to be saying. As far as our next award goes, we wouldn't be doing our conference justice if we didn't highlight some of the really stupid stuff that happened.
If we weren't going to talk about stupid stuff, what are we doing?
I don't know. Part of me wants to read this in like Nick Kroll voice, but I'm only going to do it a little bit. But it's the special teams play from NIU. I'm just going to pause on this for a second because we'll still be able to see it on film. It was a bad punt or a bad snap on punt team, and it's just fumbled around. Matt Ferentz isn't able to get a hold on it because it's a low snap, and Matt Ferentz does not deserve this crap. He's been one of the MAC's best punters, and practically one of their best players for years now. And it's just a disaster of a play. It gets punched around, and before Central can recover, Liam Sorgan, a backup tight end, punches it through the end zone. And I showed it to Alex, and Alex is just like, what? Oh my God, no. He's like, it's ugly. I don't want to watch. And that's it. Just felt like pain when I watched it the first time. It was just like, oh, life is pain. That is Also, that's as about as MACtion as it gets.
The award for cutest couple award. We're going to throw back to high school. Cutest couple award goes to Ross Bowers and Tyrese Ritchie of NIU. There was not a couple in the MAC that tried hooking up more than those two, and they are the most obvious recipients of this.
I mean, every game it seemed like he had 11 or 12 targets between the two of them. Like I highly doubt there was not a game where they did not have at least 9 targets between the two of them, because I think he had 8 catches in almost every game, right? Something like that. So he was the go-to guy, and isn't that just adorable?
Yeah, and I'd like to just statistically point out, I don't think that there was anybody that had any more legitimate targets than Tyrese Ritchie this year. So it's kind of, and like it wasn't like, I was trying to like find like, oh, is there anyone like incrementally closer? No.
Yeah, and for this, it's for good reason. Ritchie is one of the guys who made the most of his past year in the MAC, and he's the guy who probably improved his chances to maybe play pro football, whatever level that is. So props to those guys.
Caleb, you have to give out 2 Golden Game Ball Awards. These go to the best single game performances on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Screw special teams this time. Forget you guys. The top offensive player performance and the top performance from a defensive player. Who are you going to give these guys to?
Well, as much as I would love to give more shine to the Buffalo offensive line and just credit them for every game, we're going to go ahead and give it to Jarrett Patterson, because he's the one we're all going to be talking about for the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. Jarrett Patterson, he gets a few more carries. Maybe he breaks the FBS record for rushing yards in a game. Scores 8 times, ties the all-time record. And it really can't be anybody else. For a time there, it was like, oh, maybe D. Eskridge's game against Toledo is up there, but no, like you cannot justify.
No, he should be the NCAA record holder in both of those categories.
Cannot justify taking it away from him, so he's the man. It's amazing to think that anybody would have missed on him. Chris Creighton. But
hey, speaking of taking away, what about on defense?
Ooh, segue, love it. Defensively, this one, there are some pretty good efforts. A lot of large tackle games, a lot of tackle for loss, forced fumble games. Guys making their name or felt in the statistical categories. Jimmy Daw, though, is our golden game ball for defensive game of the year. Just in the biggest moment, Dahl, who's one of those guys who we didn't even mention as players to watch in our preview to the MAC championship game. He just showed out big. He had the early blocked field goal. He had the first sack against Buffalo this year. The first one. Nobody had sacked Kyle Van Treese up to that point in the MAC championship game. Got the strip sack that resulted in the touchdown that put them up a score before the half, or a score or two before the half, and also ended up with 7 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. He was huge in that game. The announcers were calling his name all night. If there is an award, if you're talking about a golden game ball for just making the biggest impact, Jimmy Daw, MAC championship game, not even close to anyone else.
Yep. He, in a game that was decided by 10 points, he blocked the field goal. So that, that's responsible for 3 points stopped right there. And then is responsible for a 7-point scored when he got that ball ripped out by Kyle Van Treese, and then let his buddy Christian Albright finish the deal. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, Caleb, we will finish this up. We have this final bit of the fun stuff. So people that are sticking around, good for you. MAC Alum of the Year is what we're going to start with on these final awards that we're going to give out. MAC Alum of the Year, of course we appreciate these guys in college, and that's when we watch them the most. That's where we pay the most attention to. But we want to see some guys put up some numbers in the league. We want to see some Hall of Famers come through. There's plenty of good MAC guys still out there. Plenty of guys that, came to the NFL teams via draft, via 4 teams later, working their way through practice squads, this and the other. Lots of names that we could pick through. The 4 finalists we did narrow our list down to, though: Robert Spillane of Western Michigan, Corey Davis of Western Michigan, Deontay Johnson of Toledo, and even though he's not in the NFL and he's still doing things in the CFL, AJ Ouellette of Ohio. Caleb, who is the winner of our first ever alum of the year.
Our first alum of the year goes to Deontay Johnson. Pittsburgh Steelers have been such a huge beneficiary of what he's been able to do this year. Starting off winning however many games it was in a row, 10 games in a row, 11 games in a row, something like that to start the season. Johnson is just one of the go-to guys for that offense. And the Max made its impact with Pittsburgh football over the years. And so Johnson doing that and even outshining Robert Spillane, who had a wonderful start to the season for the Steelers. Props to him. Toledo turns out athletes and receivers like it's nothing, and Johnson's well deserving of this award.
Yeah, I mean, Big D Johnson, he showed out, in the NFL, and he's killing it out there. MACtion moment of the year. Again, if we're not doing this, what the heck are we doing here?
Right.
But people always ask, what is MACtion? What is MACtion? Well, let me tell you, MACtion is what you make of it. It's a little bit of stupid, a little bit of awesome. Sometimes it's in the middle. But in the end, MACtion leaves us laughing at home. MACtion just has us tuned in. A lot of the times we don't remember the final score, but we sure as hell remember that one thing that happened or the thing that kind of defined everything else. So everything else be damned. Here are our 4 finalists for our MACtion moments of the year. The fake spike, the game-winning play between Western and Toledo. Wild ending in Muncie. Obviously, the lateral play in Muncie between Ball State and Western Michigan to decide the MAC West race. The lights go out at Central Michigan. The lights went out during Central Michigan's home opener against Ohio. We kind of thought the coronavirus was gonna, oh boy, your economy is so bad you can't even pay the light bill, Central. Why are you gonna have games at this time? And because people love great performances and define that as MACtion, which I can't blame them.
Sure.
Jarrett Patterson's 409 and 8. His record-breaking performance, his school record having day against Kent State should have been the NCAA record holder. But Caleb, to us, what is the MACtion moment of 2020?
Just the most holy hell did you just see that nonsense play, even if it was less complicated, less convoluted, was the fake spike touchdown that saw Western Michigan defeat Toledo. It was one of the best games of the year. That's a category we'll get to in a moment, but just, Ellaby going up to the line, the clock's running. It's right after Eskridge has pulled in a big catch. He fakes a spike, and you're like, why did he even do that? He didn't need to. Oh, God, no, it's covering Jalen Hall, which a lot of the time this year when people were covering Jalen Hall, it didn't matter either. But for this case, you're just thinking as the ball's in the air, is he going to drop it? Oh, my God, what just happened? And he catches it. Was there a whistle? What happened? Why is there? I heard a sound. Did you hear a sound? And all of that happened in like 10 seconds. And for that, it is our play of the year. The wild ending in Muncie was definitely worth considering.
Mm-hmm.
The lights going out is just like, oh, that is pretty MACtion. But it was less like exciting, more just like, yeah, that's pretty MACtion. And
that happened at the first ever Eastern game I went to.
Oh boy, yeah, it's pretty MACtion. If it was Ohio men's basketball, it would be the lights turned. It would be the shot clock turned off, or the game clock turned off. Which is
that happened with Miami too, with the shot clock being like a second or two different.
Y'all sensing a trend here? Everyone's forgetting to hire an electrician
or a smart one,
or a good one. Yeah.
But then again, I mean, like, what kind of grades do you need to get into these MAC schools? Anyways.
Oh, hey, that's
whatever. We're alums.
Yeah, I was like,
Kicking it back to high school, best dressed award. This is one where like we were kind of stressing because in a normal society with a 12-game schedule starting in late August, early September, usually the teams have, better time to prepare for these things. Adidas and Nike want to like help out and they want to like roll out new uniforms, new swag for these schools. But 2020, it was really hard for these schools to do. Still, we were lucky to find 4 finalists for new uniforms, new additions to uniforms that made their way to the field in 2020. The finalists: NIU's new Reds, Ohio's flashback uniforms from the 1960 National Championship team. Charlie the Cardinal made an appearance. He's on the Ball State helmet. As of now, he is 3-0 on the Ball State helmet. And then there was also, and we kind of had to lump this one together because schools did different things with different reasons and had different associations and all that. So we said social justice patches. Lots of schools had, United this, Black Lives Matter, matters the minimum, right there on the shoulder. Some of them had like little phrases on the back, Black Lives Matter, the helmets. And so we listed those as our 4 finalists. Caleb, though, who's the winner of our best dressed?
Our winner for best dressed is the flashback, turn back the clock 1960 Ohio uniforms. There was a lot of love on social for those. And as simple as they were, as just kind of clean as they were, that was kind of the appeal, I think, for a lot of it. It was just, oh, that's just green, baby. That's just green and old throwbacky white letters, white numbers. And it just looks good.
I mean, the better logo.
Yeah, there is that. So I did think that NIU's jerseys this year, the Reds, were super, super sexy, like just real nice. And I looked at the review for that and I'm just like,
I want a sexy sports car painted in NIU's Reds. Those were hot.
And I want corn stalks on the field, Alex, but it's not happening.
Well, I mean, it happened before.
Well, they need to make it happen again.
Game of the year. These games are always filled with MACtion moments. And sometimes we might be double dipping, but you can't talk about one without the other here. But our 4 favorite, I guess it's favorite. I don't know if it's top, we can say whatever. Yeah. Our 4 favorite games, our 4 finalists, whatever we want to call them. Western Michigan 41, Toledo 38, Eastern 53, Western 42, Ball State 30, Western 27, and Ball State 38, Buffalo 28 in the MAC championship game. Obviously, the winner here is Eastern, so we can just move on to the next one. Oh, wait. No, we have democracy, I guess. Caleb, MAC Football Forever is game of the year. What was it?
So we're sensing a trend here. A lot of West football, a lot of Western, a lot of Ball State.
I mean, the West had way more intrigue than the East.
Doesn't it always? Doesn't it always?
Yeah.
But there's no game this year that had me out of my seat losing my mind more than Western Michigan's victory over Toledo. And while Ball State Western had that crazy ass ending, MAC championship game was relatively fun. EMU Western was a shootout. No game was more just back and forth nonsense and just kind of out of your seat moments, like texting your friends. Did you see this stupid stuff during that game? No game was more like that than the Western victory right at the get-go of the season. So that set the tone for a weird year.
Yeah, when all my friends at work were like, hey, did you see the last play at Western Toledo? I said, yeah. Did you see the last 5 minutes that happened before that? And everything else, because it was all fun. All of it was fun. Top play. We went over the stupidest play of the year earlier, but now we're going to talk about the best individual performances of pure athleticism. Stuff that made us go what?
Actually, yeah.
What?
That, yeah, like that.
Stuff like that. Those are the kind of plays that we are looking for, that were considered most for top play. And the 4 finalists for the top plays of the year, and boy, oh boy, are we going to get some angry people in the comments, maybe. Dawes' forced fumble at Ford Field. Obviously, we talked about that plenty.
Yep.
D. Askredge's amazing acrobatic catch against Toledo, which helped set up, the last couple of touchdowns there. The helmet interception. Oh, the helmet interception. Oh, bounced right off Tanner Canute's head, right into the arms of a Central Michigan player to cap off the late comeback win for CMU. And Drayton Law's catch. I don't remember who he was playing, but I just remember seeing him go up, reach for it, and get 1 foot in before he went out of bounds, catching an incredible touchdown grab. I believe it was over 3 defenders too.
Yeah, in the back, one of the officials comes in like the other one's trying to wave it off as incomplete. The other one's like, no, he caught that. Like, yes. And it's just kind of sitting there like your jaw's just kind of you're just agape. You're like, what? And that was the just holy hell moment of much of the season. It was just mind blowing.
Mm-hmm. But who or what was our agreed upon top play of the year?
All good choices.
It was
All
not easy. This was not easy. I don't want to say like, oh, we both immediately agreed to this.
yeah.
No, this,
No.
no.
It,
We smoked many cigarettes deciding this.
oh yeah, yeah. Just I can't remember when this happened.
Madman.
But from in the end, the game-changing play to decide a MAC championship is the play. It's Jimmy Dawes forced fumble, sack fumble. I mean, again, like I said before, first time a Buffalo anybody sacked Kyle Van Treese this year. Buffalo's defense or Ball State's defense struggled for a good portion of the year, and then by the end of the year, anybody was capable of making a play. No more was that more evidenced than Jimmy Dahl making a play in that moment, setting the tone for the rest of the game, and showing that Ball State was there to refute the narrative of they won't come up with the big plays in the big games. They took our ideas of what Ball State football was capable of doing and just crapped on it. They took what people thought about what their team was capable of and threw it out the window. Said, doesn't matter what you think. Ball State football was absolutely incredible down the stretch this year. Jimmy Dawes' play to create the strip sack, all things considered, that's deserving of our play of the year.
Our final award that we are going to give out, we are going to dub this as the Humanitarian Award. As I said earlier, hopefully this was not the year where you finally realize that, these athletes were just athletes and that they had serious lives to consider outside of the sport. But if you didn't already know that, a few of these guys that, we're going to narrow it down to only 3 finalists. A few of these guys made you remember that, nope, they're people too, and you better recognize that. This was a year that saw a huge cry for social change in some form or another. A lot of players had to get their teams politicized, whether they like it or not, whether they want to talk about it or not, as divisive as a topic as sometimes it can be. It had to happen. And there was a lot of call for change, rightfully. A lot of players, stepped up in their own right. Some had more publicity than others. Just because we're narrowing this list down to 3 does not, and I repeat, does not minimize the efforts of everyone else putting in their work to see a better tomorrow every day. Our list of 3 finalists that we have tonight, we have Cam Odom, wide receiver of Ohio, because not only was he part of the Bobcats lead change group, but more importantly, he got every single football player, volleyball player, men's basketball, and women's basketball player on campus that was all working out at the time registered to vote. He also worked with Kenny Stills, a professional football player, with his efforts to not only just get those Bobcats to vote, but to get more people within, outside, nationally registered to vote for the 2020 elections. Jarrett Patterson, running back for Buffalo, he did a lot of stuff off the field, but one of the main things was getting players onto the field. He was one of the first, and I think the first, MAC player to put out the initial tweet of saying, hey, Governor Cuomo, hey, MACtion, we have all these other leagues playing. Why can't we? We know we're not the rich league. We know that money's not in, the money's not there for us, but we want to play even if it seems stupid. And if we can have the right protocols, we want to play. And then after that, we saw so many players from so many locker rooms come out and say, we want to play, we want to play, we want to play, we want to play. And guess what? They played. He was a huge instrumental part of that, of getting that to happen. And our third finalist is Tariq Spates, linebacker for Eastern. I had previously talked to Spates because I wanted to write an article, which I did over at my newsletter. Tariq Spates, he's been vocal pretty much all summer. He's had a lot of time to just sit and think, and he just got really tired of everything. He's incredibly motivated to see a better world. One of the main things he did, though, over the summer, he teamed up with Hunter Reynolds, a football player at U of M, and got the athletic departments from Eastern and U of M marching in the streets in Ann Arbor to, not only say Black Lives Matter and that, our lives need to be considered more. He got Eastern and Michigan players, both athletic departments, all in the streets together, which is not something that I've ever seen before. I've never seen, maize and blue and green and white work together for a similar cause. And Tariq Spates has been outspoken in many more regards too. But that is an extreme example of something that he did over the summer that really, really, really caught my attention. But Caleb, who is the winner? And again, just because you're a winner does not mean you're better or worse than anybody else that's listed or not listed here. But who is the winner for our first ever Humanitarian Award?
I'll give you the name and I'll turn it back over to Alex. Tariq Spates is your Humanitarian of the Year. Alex, tell us your connection to Tariq Spates.
Yeah, like I said, I talked to him over the summer. I pretty much just said everything right there, but I just love the fact that not only did he got all the Eastern people involved to say not just Black Lives Matter, but we're more than athletes. Listen to us as people, and then enjoy what we do. You can enjoy what we do all we want, but he really wanted people to know that we're more than athletes, and that's something that he's been trying to have, not just with Hunter Reynolds, but he's been trying to get involved with many different national organizations at, with players that went to, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like Clemson, like Air Force and like some other schools. He's talked to players all over the country just to see, hey, you want to see changes in the world. What do you want to see? Hey, you teammate, what's the change that you want to see in the world today? Hey, rival at Western, what's the change you want to see today? D3 player, JUCO guy. He's getting a lot of guys connected. You don't see it all on the Twitter streets. You do see a lot on the Twitter streets with him. But there's a lot that goes unsaid with Tariq Spates. And he is one that I'm happy to see. As an alum, I'm proud to see too. But I'm very happy to see him, regardless of what clothes he's wearing, put the efforts he's in for the progress he wants to see.
There were a lot of MAC athletes who've carried the mantle of social justice advocacy or just advocating for causes important to them. Something that comes to mind is our issues concerning mental health and how the MAC has taken a leading role in addressing something like that.
Absolutely.
And a lot of players have been vocal about that. A lot of players were vocal this summer about being more than just an athlete. A lot of them took the initiative to say, we want to represent this on the field in some way. Got them to wear patches. People like Miami's Chuck Martin were among the most vocal and frank coaches I've ever heard refer to issues of racial justice or social or advocacy of any sort, and not just giving BS through a funnel. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of players who did that this summer, and I have no qualms with hiding my leanings of saying that I think that they're doing a just thing. They're putting attention on issues of racial justice and inequality and abuse and violence that whether it's excessive force from law enforcement or other issues related to inequality and just prejudice. So again, a lot of really cool things that athletes in this conference did. I wish we could highlight it even more. I'm sure you'll continue to see us highlighting it like on social media. But for now, Tariq Spates, everything I've read about Tariq Spates has shown how he's just a ridiculously impressive young man.
Yeah, and he even has people in his private life that are like, hey, are you going to be an activist once you're done with all this? And he's like, no, man, I don't want to do all that, but thank you for thinking of me that way. I also want to point out that he and I'm blanking on the gentleman's name that plays at Akron too, Kavari Adams. They were both early on saying hey, we want to play too. And those two, after they had spoken out on social media together, were of the first ones to talk to John Steinbecker on a Zoom call and saying hey, this is kind of we want to play this and the other. When I asked Tariq about what that Zoom call included, I asked him if social change was going to be part of it. We just had a whole summer of Black Lives Matter. How much did Steinbecker how much is he willing to put in?
Yeah.
And he said, he wants, Steinbecker was, cool with listening, and he wasn't just there to have his talking points. He was there to actually listen and to have a real conversation with the athletes. So it is cool to see that there is a league that is comfortable and willing to just outright listen to these players for the first time. This is the first time that Steinbrecker's probably talked to them, I guess, especially about those issues. And for them to quickly just agree to a quick Zoom call and, go on and say this is what we want to see. And then I asked, is he going to, open up is he going to pass the mic I guess, to let you guys talk about, social issues.
Mhm.
And they felt confident that, yes, they did. Obviously, reporters didn't, CBS and ESPN didn't push microphones in their face and like, excuse me, do you think Black Lives Matter? Like that's, that's not the goal of everything. But they did have, the coaches speak out more. They did have the patches on the uniforms and, the sayings on the back of the helmets. And there was more of that visible on the field. And so that was cool to see. Of course, that was just quick turnaround. We'll see what that continues to look like going forward in the MAC. But of course, I'm proud of Tariq Spates as an Eastern alum for him to, to really get working on that, to really get working on what matters to him and what matters to a lot of people that may or may not recognize his name. But Caleb, that wraps up our very, very long MAC Football Forever award show. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad you wanted us to do that.
Well, I'm glad we did it. And now I want to hear from people. If, you took the time to sit through all of this, you might as well get your opinions out. Like, how could this have not won Play of the Year? How could you guys forget this? Not super interested in like everybody being indignant about it, but if you're sharing your opinions with us, all the better. If you want to jump into the mentions and tell us what you liked, what award you would have liked to have seen. If maybe you wanted to make up your own award, you should tell us about that. So looking for your feedback. Hopefully this is something that you guys are happy to see, would like to see more of in the future.
Yeah, because ultimately that's what those comments are going to work towards. Your comments are going to help us think about, how we're going to do this next year. And I think we did a fun job this time, but I can't wait until we do it next time too. I can't wait until we see next season. It's going to be a long time until then. But again, I'm so appreciative of what we had. We have no idea if and when or what's going to happen to the MAC and all these schools moving forward. 2020 was a year to never forget, for better or for worse. And we are here to celebrate the good of it. And Caleb, I'm so glad I got to watch the good of it with you all year long. Is there anything else that you want to add before we get going on here?
We had a lot of fun doing this type of stuff, and I hope that you guys will continue to hear feedback from people about what they like, what they want to see more of, and stay on the lookout for more cool stuff from us. For now, this is us saying goodbye from our first ever MAC Football Forever Award show.
Bye. Congrats if you won.